All right, everybody. Welcome to College Football Wraparound. What a show we have here for you today. As you can see, I put a little wrinkle to this. Got a little bit of background music as an intro. I gotta tell you, what a night this is gonna be. So, that was our little intro. Hope you enjoyed that. And so, tonight, we have a lot to get to. We're going to start out by talking about Sherrone Moore. He got hired as the Michigan Wolverines' next head coach, taking over for the guy he worked under, which is Jim Harbaugh. Of course, Sherrone Moore being the now former offensive coordinator of the Michigan Wolverines. Also, in between our two segments that I did list, which we are going to look at the Big 12 schedule. But first, we are going to look at some breaking news that came out earlier this afternoon that I wasn't able to put in the description because I was a little late. Well, not late, but I mean, when I scheduled things this morning, I wasn't able to get this news because I didn't see it till later this afternoon. So, Jeff Hafley, the head coach of the Boston College Golden Eagles, I believe is what they are, he has taken the defensive coordinator job with the Green Bay Packers of the NFL. So, we're going to get into that a little bit. But tonight, what a night to begin some college football discussions. And so, of course, this is going to be a great show, I think. So, let's get into it. Sherrone Moore hired to take over for Jim Harbaugh at Michigan. I'll say this. I am not shocked whatsoever that this has happened. And if you want to know why I'm not shocked, it's because, it was almost inevitable that Jim Harbaugh was going to go back to the NFL at some point. So, with that being said, I'm not shocked that they decided Sherrone Moore was the guy. I think there was a lot of Michigan people who were sitting there like, okay, we're happy for what Jim Harbaugh's done. Let's move Sherrone Moore up because he actually was the interim head coach for a couple games throughout the last season. Did well, although I will say it was Jim Harbaugh's team. And there was a lot of motivation behind them winning the games that he coached because they felt like Harbaugh was being mistreated. So, do I think Sherrone Moore will do a good job with Michigan? This year, I think they'll be a pretty good team. Now, do I feel like they will be able to continually have the success that Harbaugh has brought these last couple years? I don't know. But the one reason why I think Michigan, and I've seen people talk about this as well, and I couldn't have agreed more, is that when you think of the players who go to Michigan, most of them I don't think are really going because of the coach. I feel like it's more about the university is the reason why they go to Michigan. Whereas a team like Alabama, because you saw some of the players leave Alabama, they went there to play for Saban. And so, Saban retires, Kalen DeBoer comes in. That's why you saw a mass exodus of players leaving. But then also, Kalen DeBoer has brought in a bunch of talent. One of the most notable things is Ryan Williams recommitting to Alabama. But getting back to Michigan, I don't think I haven't seen anything, but I don't think they've really lost many players other than the ones who have graduated or have decided to go pro. So that is something that I think Michigan can continue to get the same guys that they have been getting, the ones who want to go to Michigan. Do I think that they are going to be. I mean, after this season, this upcoming season, do I think they can continue the success? I don't know. I feel like they're going to fall into a situation where they'll be 9-3, 8-4 every season until they have another stretch where of incredible football like they have these last 3 years. I mean, I don't think any Michigan fans would pass up these last 3 years. I mean, you beat Ohio State the last 3 years. You got 3 straight playoff appearances. This past year was the national championship win in Houston, beating Washington. I mean, I think Michigan fans are pretty happy with what he's done. And so, but the only thing I worry about is because I personally do not think Michigan, in the way their fans view it, in the way that the university staff views it, I don't think football is really going to be a big priority. So I don't see them continuing. Like I said, I don't see them after next season. I don't really see them really continuing being the top of the top, especially when you consider the fact of Ohio State. I mean, I got to tell you, my first rankings, which let me tell you, this is the reason why here at Saber Broadcast Network, what we did is right after the season ended, we put out a very, very early poll out to see where people were feeling after the season ended and where they saw teams going the next season. This is why we're going to do another poll literally the week before college football season starts in August. And it's because Ohio State, they feasted on the fact that Saban retired, and they went out and got a couple of these Alabama players. Another guy that's big time is Caden Proctor from Alabama. He went to Iowa. So when I say this, Ohio State's reloaded. USC is going to be interesting to see. UCLA, I think, is going to be interesting. Oregon, Washington, the 4 Pac-12 teams that are coming to play in the Big Ten are going to be interesting components. Plus, let's see what Penn State starts to do. Can Penn State actually start winning the big games? So that's the thing. Michigan, they got a lot of uphill climbing to do, I think, in these next few years. And it's going to be interesting because Sherrone Moore, I'm skeptical about. I mean, I personally had the feeling like with Harbaugh leaving, it was inevitable that Sherrone Moore was going to get the head coaching job. Do I think he would? And like I said, I don't know if he can really sustain the success of these past 3 seasons. So, I mean, if you want to comment below what you believe about Sherrone Moore in Michigan, can they actually continue the success of the past 3 seasons? I want to know what your thoughts are on that. But we do have to move on. We're going to talk about Jeff Hafley. He is leaving Boston College to go be the defensive coordinator of the Green Bay Packers. Now, his last game as the Boston College head coach, they went to the Wasabi Fenway Bowl and beat SMU, who SMU is the American Athletic Conference champions, which, funny enough, Boston College and SMU will be playing each other they're conference rivals at this point because SMU joining the ACC. As far as when they'll play, I will have to go back and look at the schedule and see if they do play each other. But that's another conversation for another day. But here we go. As a head coach, I don't know if he couldn't really find the offense out there at Boston College in a lot of respects. And it was interesting because the team was not incredible while he was a head coach. And so it's going to be interesting, I think, because I did want to briefly just touch on this. It's going to be interesting to see who Boston College ends up going to get as their head coach. But also, I think there's a factor of Jeff Hafley. I feel like maybe he saw that he was not going to improve this team very much at all. And he saw the opportunity to go to the NFL as a defensive coordinator, so he took the opportunity while he had it. So, of course, it's sad to see a guy leave the college game, but one of the conversations I think people more and more over the next few years is going to start bringing up until there is something drastically change with the way everything's set up is this. How can a coach in college with all this stuff that's got to go on? Because not only do you got to go out and recruit the high school kids, you got to go recruit your team currently. And that I don't feel like is helpful. But then you got all this stuff going on in December. As a head coach in the college game, plus with the NIL stuff going on, players' attitudes probably not the greatest, especially at a college like Boston College, who they don't win very much, and probably looking at all the deals they could possibly get. I mean, I just don't see a world where a lot of these old style coaches are going to sit there and actually want to coach. And I mean, a lot of people's been speculating, is that the reason why Saban retired is because of that? I don't know. Saban, of course, said that he was retiring because he wanted to, and that it was time. But getting back to Jeff Hafley, I don't know if we gotten a statement yet. Of course, whenever we do, I'll come back on my next Wednesday night show if there's something between then and give you the update. But the thing is that I just feel like there's going to be a lot of coaches in the next 2 to 3 years. If nothing gets changed, you're going to see a lot of guys leaving the college game. And I mean, honestly, you could either see one, I could see them going to, in like just retiring straight up and just going and doing whatever they want to, because I mean, they're getting paid pretty good to be college coaches at the bigger schools, at least. But two, I could see them going to the NFL, whether like if it's Jeff Hafley taking a coordinator job, like an analyst job, like something other than just, not being a head coach. I mean, that's going to be a big thing here, is that I think there's going to be a lot of coaches in the next 2 to 3 years. If nothing gets changed, they're going to leave. And so that's the thing that for the college game, when all these people put money ahead of the value of the fans and really the college athletes in itself, when you don't put any boundaries with NIL, when you don't shape the schedule where you can actually do anything, I mean, I got to be honest with you. And that is that now coaches are stuck in the worst kind of situations, and they're not going to want to coach in college. Because let's be honest, the way the NFL has got itself structured, coaches are going to look at that and be like, if I want to coach, I'm going to the NFL, because now I can at least coach and know that I'm not having to do 50 million things. I mean, also, here's the thing. Bowl season is right in that December. So imagine if you're a team like Boston College, where you got to prepare for a bowl game, which, to be honest, is meaningless. If you're not, I mean, it's just meaningless, to be honest with you. Then you got players who are going to sit out that bowl game. You got to recruit the players that's already on your team. You got to go out and recruit high school kids. You got to look at any of the other players at the transfer portal and see if they could actually fit with your mold. So how in the world do these coaches, and I mean, there's probably some stuff I'm leaving out here, but how in the world do these coaches actually find the wiggle room within their schedules to do all of this? Here's the thing. It's almost impossible, folks. And I just hope things get fixed within the college landscape, but it's not going to. It is turning into an NFL version, like a developmental league is what it's turning into. And the problem with that is you are looking at college athletes. And that's the thing I think people's forgot about. Within the new college football playoff system, when are these kids? I mean, the way it's structured, are we seriously going to make these kids, okay, if you are the number 5 seed, and let's say, I mean, by the way that you got it right now, Notre Dame, let's say you are actually the best team in college football, but you know what? You're not a conference champion. You don't get a bye. You don't get a bye in this system of the playoff. That right there is crappy right there if you're Notre Dame. But then again, here we go. If you're Notre Dame, you get the 5 seed. You're probably the best team in college football. But on top of already playing 12 regular season games, you're going to have to play. I mean, you got your first round game, then you got your quarterfinal, then you got your semifinal, and then you got the championship if you make it that far. 4 extra games if you're Notre Dame. See, that's 16 total games. Let's say you're a team like if you're Georgia, let's say that you just happen to lose your conference championship game. You're looking at a 17-game schedule if you make it to the national championship. Folks, I'm here to tell you, 15 is a lot for these teams who have been winning the national championship here recently, like Michigan and Washington being it this past year. But you add another 2 games to that with a busy college schedule. And the way the college football playoff is set up, the national championship is not till Monday, January 20th of next year. How in the world these college athletes, and that's the thing, is like that has ruined the fact of this is college. Let me emphasize that. It is college football. And these athletes are now, they're paid athletes where they don't ever have to go on campus to go to a class where you can just do it all online. But you know what? I'm just telling you. People with deep pockets have ruined the game. So, in all this rant to say, it's a question I bring up to you. Was Jeff Hafley, did he leave because of the crappy schedule in the crappy way college football's ran today? Answer me that for yourself if you want to, but that's all I got to say about Jeff Hafley. I mean, first 20 minutes of the show is already gone. And now let's turn our attention to the Big 12 schedule for next season. Before I get into it, right now, when I'm looking at the conference, these are the 3 teams that I'm most intrigued by to see how they do. And I'm going to be interested to see what you think about the teams' schedules that I'm about to show you. So let's dive into it. All right, we begin with the Big 12 schedule. Here it is. So we got Oklahoma State, Utah, West Virginia as our 3 teams we're going to look at. Like I said, I'm very interested in these 3 squads right here. But beginning with Oklahoma State, they will start their season on August 31st, playing at home against South Dakota State. Then they'll have a game against Arkansas. Then they'll go to Tulsa. Then they got Utah. at Kansas State, and then West Virginia. Then they got a bye week. They'll be at BYU. They'll be at Baylor. They have Arizona State, at TCU, and then another bye week, and then Texas Tech, and at Colorado. So right now, if I look at this schedule, I mean, first of all, that week 2 game against Arkansas, and I mean, here these last few years, I think that the Big 12 has started emphasizing trying to make big time games out of conference where you're playing either SEC or Big 10 teams so that you can try to show the College Football Playoff Committee that, hey, our teams are good enough. The difference in this system is that I don't know you want your teams to win every game. Well, at least in the old system, you wanted to win every game so you can make yourself look as good as possible. Here's the thing. As long as you win the Big 12 championship, you can get an automatic spot. But I think what they're trying to do here is trying to get some of these other bids into the playoffs, like I guess what you're going to call your wild card bids. So if you're like Oklahoma State, that Arkansas game, depending on how Arkansas does next season, that could be an interesting win. And then you go down to week 4 and you got that Utah game. That's a big conference game right there when you consider the fact that Utah is a team that has really challenged some of these other teams in the Pac-12 and now coming over to the Big 12. They're going to be an interesting squad for sure. And then you turn around, you got to go to Kansas State. That's not an easy game. Kansas State's going to be interesting. And then you got West Virginia after that. West Virginia, I could see them being really good next season. So, and then you got a bye week, and then you got BYU and Baylor and Arizona State and TCU. Really, I think if you're Oklahoma State, you got to get past Utah, Kansas State, and West Virginia. Like that gauntlet of a 3-week schedule is going to be very, very interesting for the Cowboys. Of course, they're the only team out of the 2 that was in the Big 12 championship from the previous season that is still in the conference right now. So, of course, going to be interesting to see how they do. So now moving on to Utah. So they'll start their season August 29th playing Southern Utah. Then they'll play September 7th against Baylor. Then they will go to Utah State. Then they'll go to Oklahoma State. Then they got Arizona at Arizona State, TCU at Houston, BYU at Colorado, Iowa State, and at UCF. Here's the one problem, folks, that I have with the schedule. Whoever came up with it, why is Utah and BYU playing November 9th instead of the last week of the season? Like, why is Utah going to UCF on November 29th? Like, can we at least right now, folks, I'm going to come back to me for a second. Is there a world where these people who put this stuff together actually view the aspect of, hey, there's rivalries here. Can we actually view them as rivalry games? Can we actually put them, okay, like Utah and BYU? Not saying that it won't be big on November 9th. But here's my thing. Why can't we put that on November 29th? Why can't we put that in the last week of the season? Why is Utah being put on a short week to go all the way out to Florida? This it just amazes me the way that this is kind of scheduled here. In Utah, if I believe correctly, I believe that is 10 conference games. Yeah. Utah is playing 10 conference games this season. So, comment below what you think about that. Utah, some of the more interesting games is Oklahoma State, Arizona. BYU, of course, is going to be interesting because of it being a rivalry game. But other than that, I mean, I could see Utah being really good and playing for a spot in that Big 12 championship and possibly going to the college football playoff. So let's move on to our last team, the West Virginia Mountaineers. They'll begin their season on August 31st against Penn State, which is a very interesting game. And I forgot, while putting the schedule together, Penn State's number 12 in our rankings. And I forgot to put that on our West Virginia schedule. I am so sorry for that. But either way, we got Penn State, then UAlbany, and they'll go to Pitt. They got Kansas, at Oklahoma State, Iowa State, Kansas State, at Arizona, at Cincinnati, Baylor, UCF, and at Texas Tech. So this schedule is interesting because you start out with Penn State at home. That's going to be a fun one, I believe. And then, of course, you got Kansas, and then at Oklahoma State. That's interesting. And then you got Iowa State and Kansas State, and at Arizona. By far, the West Virginia schedule to me is a whole lot harder than these other two teams so far when you look at the matchups. And I think West Virginia will be interesting to watch. Do I think that they will play for a Big 12 championship? I mean, it's too early to tell right now. Right now, we're in that stage of let's look at week one and see, let's kind of think about how these teams can be this season. So it's very interesting to see these teams indeed. Big 12 schedule. I will say this. I am a person that has grown up. I mean, you look at the SEC and the way that they schedule rivalries at the end of the season, like they matter. And it just, when you see like Oklahoma State Oklahoma State ends the season at Colorado, Utah is going to UCF, West Virginia is going to Texas Tech. Like, it just makes me think about why are rivalries not being played on that last week. I mean, that's rivalry week for a reason. And so, I don't know. But either way, I do have some announcements before I go. So if you're a person who has been watching the Cooper Naylor Show podcast over exclusively over on YouTube, we are not having a pre-recorded episode this Sunday, but rather 8 p.m. Sunday night, I am planning on doing a live podcast. So it'd be a first for the Cooper Naylor Show going live. I'm going to be talking about my experience at 4-H Midwinter. Of course, I'm fixing to go tomorrow night, going down there to Columbiana, Alabama to do that. So, of course, I'll come back Sunday night. Well, Sunday afternoon, I'll be back home. So Sunday night, plan on Cooper Naylor Show live. And so that's going to be a little fun. And then the next week, I got another big thing planned. So it'll be a little earlier of a start. I'm planning on going live about 5:30. And what I'm going to do is, for the Cooper Naylor Show, we are going to do a Super Bowl live stream. So we're going to live stream the Super Bowl for you. Of course, what does that look like? It's just like our normal game broadcast where it's just going to be me just, giving you the analysis of what is going on within the Super Bowl. So I got to tell you, a lot of fun stuff coming up in the next 2 weeks of the Cooper Naylor Show. Of course, Wednesday nights, 8 o'clock, you can always catch us here, College Football Wraparound, giving you the latest news, looking at the schedules, if that's something we do. But, always talking about some college football. But for now, I want to thank you for watching. And with that, we will see you again later. Goodbye, everybody. Hello, everyone. Tonight, I am here to tell you that we have a special deal for you coming up with Saber Broadcast Network. we are going to be doing a buy one, get one free kind of sale. So, what kind of sale could I tell you it is? We will be selling t-shirts, Saber Broadcast Network t-shirts. And what comes free? This special little coaster, Saber Broadcast Network coaster you can use to sit your drink on. So if you want some good, high-quality material in a shirt and a nice little coaster to come free, then we have a community post we'll be putting out, and we will tell you all about it and where to contact and everything about it. So hope that you will consider getting this item as part of your collection.